Yo people, how's it going? My name's Joe, what's your name? It's that time of the year again, it's mini cut time, which is gonna be a brief but strict 10-day period focusing on fat loss. So, 1 second. Reason being, Christmas. So, it was Christmas yesterday. It is now the 26th of December and I weigh 177.6 pounds. Obviously I ate myself into a stupor. I was in like a chocolatey zombie-like state. It actually hurt at one point. And you just can't live like that, man. You gotta undo that shit. So what I'm gonna do is 10 days. See how lean I can get in 10 days. Now obviously if the goal was just bare weight loss, then I could eat just an apple a day and get pretty skinny in those 10 days, but I'd like to retain some kind of lean muscle mass as well, so this will be a secondary consideration for us. I think that's it for now. That's your intro. What I'm going to do is check in tomorrow with calories and macros and all that shit, and at various points through the video I will outline the whole procedure. Ciao. Yo, I'm going to talk about macros and calories. So for these 10 days I'm going to be on 2,500 calories, which will be split down into 313 grams of carbs, 188 grams of protein and 56 grams of fat. There's nothing special about those specific numbers. MyFitnessPal just only lets you do it to the closest 5%, unless you go through a long process, and you can actually get it to the gram, but it's a ball ache. So that's about where I want to be. It's just over a gram per pound of protein. It's about 0.3 to 0.35 grams of fat per pound of body weight, and the remainder carbs. So that's it for macros and calories. I know that from past experience I'm going to lose like a fair bit of weight on 2,500. In the past I would usually cut on between 2.7 and 2.8 to be honest, but I'd probably only be strict for 5 out of 7 days on that and I'd still lose weight at a significant rate. Now the benefits of a mini cut, or at least one of them, I may actually go through the whole pros and cons in a later clip. For now, one that we'll touch upon is the fact that you can probably get away with a slightly bigger deficit. Usually people say cut in, you know, a 500 calorie deficit, because the whole kind of idea of cutting and trying to lose body fat is that you're also trying to retain muscle mass, and one thing you have to do to do that is to ensure that you don't lose weight too fast, hence, you know, a gradual deficit. However, at the start of a cut, when your body fat is a little bit higher, you can usually get away with a higher rate of weight loss, and then towards the end of the cut it has to slow down a little bit in order to keep those gains, man. So since I'm just doing a mini cut, effectively it's just like the first 10 days of a cut would be. I can get away with, you know, a bit of a higher deficit because I know that it's 10 days. I'm not going to start losing strength over those 10 days, so therefore hopefully shouldn't really lose any muscle mass. That would happen if I was to go into an extreme deficit, but I know this is just moderate to high. It's fine. I'm going to pick up next clip with an overview of the past few days of weights and a workout. Alright, so day 1 was 177.6 pounds, day 2 was 175.4, and day 3 was 174.2. So it was quite a big difference between the day 1 and day 2 weight, and that's just because I ate a fuckload on Christmas Day. And so when I weighed myself for the first weigh-in on day 1, which was Boxing Day, obviously I still had a shit ton of food inside me, so a lot of that weight will have actually been food in my digestive system, and also a lot of water that comes along with that as well. So generally towards the very beginnings you can expect to see much more dramatic weight loss than further down the line. So key is don't shit yourself because it will level off. Oh look, I've moved to the couch. Edgy. Am I in focus? I'm gonna make sure I'm in focus. The training split forever pretty much is push-pull legs, repeat. Now I've had to make some allowances due to injuries, I'll get to those later, but for now this is a standard push workout. Alright people, quick little push workout run through now. First up we have flat barbell press, and for my main two compounds in this workout, my vertical and my horizontal press, I'm doing a pyramid style rep scheme. So I'm doing a set of 8, a set of 6, a heaviest middle set of 4, then back up to a set of 6, and then finishing on another set of 8. That's flat barbell press first, and next on to my vertical press, which will be overhead barbell press. Again with these, starting with a set of 8, then moving down to a set of 6, heaviest set of 4, and then back up a set of 6, and then a set of 8 to finish off. Next up we are doing chest movement number 2, or you could call it tricep movement number 1. And these are just some bodyweight tricep dips. I would do them weighted, but I don't have access to a belt in this gym that I was training on the day. So I'm just doing 3 sets of 15 to 20 body weight. I would count these as a second chest exercise. Okay, so second delt exercise is seated lateral raise machine, and I've spoken about these before in videos. I just prefer them over dumbbell lateral raises. Sometimes I will actually throw both in just for good measure, but for all intents and purposes this is second and final delt movement. And for these I'll do 4 sets of 10 to 12. Last up we have tricep isolation movement, and I just alternate really between tricep cable push downs and dumbbell skull crusher, or I suppose you would call it dumbbell tricep press, whichever I fancy on the day. And so again I'll do 4 sets of 10 to 12, and that's it for the push workout. Yo fellas and girls, we're going to talk about the pros and cons, advantages and disadvantages of a mini cut. So number 1, primary advantage, and the whole reason for doing it is that it just buys you some more time on the bulk. So basically if you lose a little bit of fat now, it means that you can spend a longer period of time bulking and making gains before you reach that upper limit, the threshold of acceptable body fat levels, before you become a fucking chunk monster, mate. Number 2, you get relatively quick results, as quick results as you will ever get on any physical pursuit pretty much, because the start of a cut is always the easiest to adhere to and the most productive, and so that's essentially what you're doing. You're skimming the easiest part off the front end of a cut. Number 3, following from that, it's easy to adhere to. If you can't stick to a diet for 10 days, I mean, I don't know, I would blame the parents or something, man. There's some issues going on there. Number 4, let me think what number 4 is. Oh yeah, it breaks up the bulk a little bit, so maybe it gives you a bit of a break, changing up the goal temporarily, decreases overall monotony levels, and maybe it increases your chances of adherence to the bulk long term. The final advantage would be that it's so short that you don't really risk experiencing any of the negative effects that usually come along with prolonged periods in a calorie deficit, such as loss of strength, decreased energy levels, dick not working, any of that shit. So that's it. Cons, I actually can't think of any cons. I think the only bad point about doing a mini cut would be that it can promote a kind of chop change mentality, you know, flicking between bulking and cutting, and I've mentioned this before in videos. That's not ideal. So what I would say is, if you are going to do a mini cut, set a time limit on it and then just stick to that time limit. So I'm setting 10 days, that's the absolute bottom end of what I would do. That's like minimum. Really I should have done 2 weeks so that it would have been a more dramatic difference, and then my video would have had more chance of going viral. But you know, 10 days is nice. It's a nice number for me. I need to get back on that bulk and make some gains. So what I would say is set your duration and just stick to it. That's it for the pros and cons. We're doing the next workout. I think it's a pull workout. Let's do it. Alright people, so this is a pull workout without any real pull exercises. So I mentioned earlier that I have an injury at the moment, and that is to do with my left bicep. Basically, I really need to go and get it checked out, to be honest. But for the time being, it is preventing me from doing any pulling exercises such as lat pull down, any kind of rows, or basically any exercise that involves flexion of the left bicep. So I can't even do any bicep curls either. So trying to get through it as best I can and just focus on other things. So I am starting off each pull day with quite a lot of deadlifts, actually usually about 6 to 8 sets, and I'm doing similar rep schemes to what I mentioned previously with the push workout main compounds, where I'm starting light and doing higher rep sets and working up to a middle heaviest set and then going back down in terms of weight and up in terms of reps. Second exercise is pretty much the only thing I can do to get some kind of lat activation, and I've taken the top off here so that you can hopefully see that activation. So these are called lat prayer, or I don't know, lat cable pull down, who knows. But as you can see, I'm not having to flex my biceps at all. So the tension here is actually on my triceps more, just trying to keep my arms straight, and it's pretty much as close as you're gonna get to some kind of lat fly type exercise. So I'm pretty much doing as many of these as I can be bothered to do, so usually 4 or 5 sets of 10 to 12. Finally, I am doing some rear delt flies, and I have to use this machine, which is actually a pretty sick machine. Again, this takes any kind of tension off the bicep, so whereas I'd have to be tensing my bicep to hold the dumbbells on rear delt dumbbell flies or anything like that, obviously with the pad on my elbows here, I don't have to involve the bicep or the forearm at all. That's it for the pull workout. Alright, we're doing off-centre catch-ups, because we're just edgy little fucks, man. I'm going to go through some weights. 1 second. Where did we get up to? So, we got up to day 3 last time, so up to day 3 is here. And then we had day 4, 175 pounds. Day 5, 174.8. Day 6, 174.4. Day 7, 173. And day 8, 174. So, there is a large drop between, not large, but 1.4 pounds between day 6 and day 7. And the important thing to note about day 7 is that it was New Year's Day. So New Year's Eve to New Year's Day, so quite a drastic reduction in weight. That is because I was up until for a long time, and so although I did have a few beers, I think I was vastly under calories for the day based on my expenditure. I was dancing a lot, man. Now, previously, I said how you should be able to stick to something for 10 days. It's easy to adhere to. If you can't stick to a diet for 10 days, I mean, I don't know, I would blame the parents or something, man. Well, on New Year's Day, I did not stick to my calories. I probably went over by about 1,000. And that is reflected in the weight coming back up by a pound on day 8. Ideally, in hindsight, I would say that planning a mini cut with New Year's Eve in the middle of it is not ideal. Anyway, that's weight updates for now. Alright people, so third and final workout commentary of this video, and I just want to say that I've been doing push-pull legs, but obviously I haven't just got around that once in those 10 days. Typically I will do push-pull legs, rest, so I'll have one rest day per week. So leg day starts with leg press, and it's a similar rep range or rep scheme to previous compounds, but just a little bit higher. So for these I'll do a set of 10, a set of 8, a set of 6, then back up to a set of 8, and then back up to a set of 10 for the 5th set. So I just like to go a little bit higher on those. I just don't feel that comfortable with going heavy enough to make a 4 rep set on leg press difficult enough. Next up we are on leg extensions, and if you have watched my previous videos, I'm sure you'll be aware that I prefer to do these single-legged, partly because I don't want to depend more on a stronger side. I do notice that one side is a little bit weaker. Also, I find that the weight that I can do per leg is higher, just because obviously when one leg is working, the other gets a rest just for that couple of seconds of the rep, but it does actually make a significant difference to what weight you can lift, and I really do think it's effective doing it this way. Third exercise was the same but opposite, so hamstring lying leg curls, and again I'll do these alternate, same reasons. I find that one side is a lot weaker than the other side, and so obviously I don't want to exacerbate that by depending more on a stronger side when I'm doing them both legs at the same time. So for the extensions and for these, I'll just do 4 sets of 10 to 12. That'll be per side, so the total reps would be 20 to 24. After these, I actually did 4 sets of 10 to 12 Smith machine calf raises, which I didn't film, so you'll just have to believe me that I did those. And finally finished up with some weighted lunges. So I like to just put in at least one leg pressing movement that's more free weight based, just so you have to kind of work a bit more and actually stabilizing the knee joint, and you're not just on, you know, leg press machines all the time. I just find that including something a lot more functional per se gives me a little bit of peace of mind, I suppose. For these I'll just do 3 sets of whatever the distance of this studio is times 3, so it'll actually be a very high rep set, but I don't mind that as it's just a kind of finisher exercise at the end, whatever that means. Alright, that's it for the leg workout. See you in the next clip. Cardio. I've just been doing 200 calories a day. 200 calories worth of cardio per day. 100 calories before my workout and 100 calories after my workout. It's just nice like that. I feel like it's nice. 100 calories goes like that. Roughly 100 calories on an exercise bike, so it's never going to be accurate. Probably more, considering I would say I have more muscle mass than the average person that gets on an exercise bike in pure gym. Therefore, to move that muscle mass through the same kind of, it takes more, burns more, basically. Anyway, that's it for cardio. In terms of abs, I was just doing what I always do, which is 10 to 12 sets, 1 to 2 times per week, 2 exercises, 5 or 6 sets each. That's it. Yo people, what's happening? We made it. We did it, we got to the end. It's over. The results are in. Let's see what they say. Let's see what happened. Now, initial weight on. In fact, I'll just put them all on the screen now. They're all there. I didn't click. There you go. So, initial weight, 177.6. Final weight, which says day 11, 172.2. Now obviously that's day 11 because if you think about the first weigh-in will have been the morning of day 1. So the 10th weigh-in will only have been the morning of day 10. So the actual final weigh-in was the morning of day 11, which would then, I wouldn't be cutting on that day. So let's produce those in graph form. I'll summon all my best Microsoft Excel knowledge, make a graph. Here you go. It's like this. So obviously you can see that it's quite close to linear. It's certainly a downward trend, which is, you know, I would be disappointed if it wasn't. But there was times when it goes up and down, and you know, this will happen a lot. And also I get this a lot with clients when they're like confused at how they could have been in a deficit, but their weight may be up, you know, 1 day or even 2 days consistently. Again, I will go back to my point of just don't shit yourself. Just comes back to trust the process. There are natural fluctuations that occur. It's normal. It's fine as long as there's an overall bigger picture, zoomed out downward trend. We're winning. So I'll show you the body fat one as well. That's here. So that looks similar, very similar, doesn't it? So initial weight was 177.6 and body fat percentage was 14.8. The final weight was 172.2 and the body fat percentage was 13.5. So that's 5.4 pounds down in total, which is quite a lot for 10 days. I'll talk about it in a minute. Let's look at the actual physique difference anyway, so let's do that. Alright, so let's do it. Here on the left is the footage from day 1, and on the right is the footage from the morning of day 11, so after 10 full days cutting. I'm just going to freeze it here. You can see the light, the colour and stuff. It's not exactly the same, just because I took both of these clips at around about 11 AM in the morning, before any food or anything like that, with no indoor light, just with the natural light coming in from outside. However, in hindsight, it probably would have been more accurate to do them both in a completely indoor setting with no outside light, just to make sure that there's no variance in the light, because obviously the weather in Manchester 10 days apart is unlikely to be consistent, and such was the case on this occasion. So anyway, hopefully you can see some kind of difference there. Front on, side on, there isn't really anything to see here. Put my hair up, that's it. I'm going to freeze it again when we get around to the back here. So I think you can see some improvement in definition on the back, especially if you look down to the bottom left of my back on that left hand picture. You can see a little tiny fat roll. Might just be skin, I don't know, but it's not there on the right. And my back is actually somewhere where I hold a lot of fat relatively, which obviously is kind of lucky, because it means that if I'm taking pictures and stuff front on, my abs don't start getting much fat on them until like, you know, I've started to actually put a decent bit on. So I'm lucky in that sense, but hopefully you can see some kind of definition improvements there between the left and the right, especially up around the middle and upper back on that right pic. I also have done a comparison with the after clip in the gym, just in some good lighting conditions, just so I can really you know, exaggerate this 10-day mini cut. I'm going to freeze it here. Obviously I'm tensing there on the right, but I mean, hopefully you can see that there is some difference there. I'm going to spin round to the back in a second, and you will see, hopefully see some kind of difference anyway. So that's it. Yeah, cheers. Considerations to make. I would say that 2,500 was probably a touch low, and if I was to do it again, I'd probably do 2,600 to 2,700. I'm not too worried about the 5.4 pounds loss, especially because a couple of pounds of that was after the first day, which was literally just a case of me being full of mince pies. But I did find that I was quite hungry most of the time, which is not ideal, man. It's not a great way to live, is it? No one wants to be hungry most of the time. And so it was just about manageable. My in focus, fucks. It was just about manageable for the 10 days, but if it was any longer, it would have been difficult, man. Now I didn't suffer any kind of strength loss, anything like that. So apart from a kind of comfort perspective, the calories weren't too low really. That's it. I mean, I think that's it. Hopefully it was worth it, even if it wasn't. It was just 10 fucking days, wasn't it? If you got any questions, leave them in the comments. See you later.
Delaney is my hero!